Are you suffering? Are you going through some difficult things? Are you facing some situations, some circumstances, some struggles, maybe on the outside, maybe on the inside, maybe they're physical, maybe they're emotional, maybe they have to do with a relationship, maybe it has to do with your finances or your job, or your ministry, maybe it's a spiritual thing that you know is from the enemy. Do you have a thorn in your flesh? Well, the Bible has an incredible promise about this situation in our life, and it's the promise of God's all-sufficient grace. It's found in 2 Corinthians chapter 12 and verse 9. God says to Paul, "My grace is sufficient for you. My power is perfected in your weakness." You see, Paul was going through a season and he had a thorn in the flesh. And he went to God 3 times to have it removed. Now, he had just had these great revelations. Paul probably, when he was killed, stoned, in persecution, probably had a near-death experience. He probably died, and he certainly saw heaven and was revealed the glories of heaven and a lot of other things, and then came back and lived this incredible life as an apostle. Well, he said he had a thorn in the flesh. In part, he experienced a thorn in the flesh, and it was to curb his pride. He said, so that I'm not all built up in pride because of all that I've seen and all that God has revealed to me. And then he says, I asked God 3 times to remove it, and he said no. He experienced unanswered prayers. What I mean by that is he experienced God saying, no, I'm not going to answer that prayer. Maybe you've been praying about your situation. You've been praying about what's going on, and God doesn't seem to be doing a thing. Well, what's up? Well, unremoved thorns remind us life is not about us. His glory is what it's about. His strength, His strength is made perfect in my weakness. Then Paul says in verse 10, my boast shouldn't be in me and what I've seen and what I've done. It's a reminder that my only boast is in Him. Unremoved thorns help us depend on the Lord, and they help us make Him the focus of our boasting. They're hard. They're difficult. They're incredibly challenging. But I want to remind you, if you're going through a season where you have a thorn that is going on in your life, God is sufficient. Now, theologians love to debate. What was this thorn? Was it physical? Was it have to do with Satan himself? Was it his wife? I've read all sorts of things. His eye condition. What was the problem? We don't know. And I think it's not specified so that it applies to all of us. Whether your problem is physical or spiritual or emotional or relational or vocational or financial or ministerial or whatever, this verse still applies. God's promise, my grace is sufficient for you. This is what I found. I had a son going through a season of, really, he should have died. And every day the question was he going to die that day? I remember getting up every morning, going to the hospital at 4:30 in the morning, sitting by his bed, and on the way to the hospital, I would say to God, God, is he going to die today? And God would tell me, no, he's not dying today. My son didn't die. He's living and he's serving God, and yay, God. But what God also told me, and he told me this every day as well, I'm going to give you all the grace you need for everything you're going to face one day at a time. All the grace you need for everything you're going to face one day at a time. And God's done that. God has proven that to me over and over again, when I'm going through hard situations, when I'm going through difficult seasons, when I'm going through a lot of temptation or going through a lot of opposition, God's grace is sufficient. He gives you all the grace you need for everything you're going to face one day at a time. God's grace is deeper, it's higher, it's broader, it's stronger, and it lasts longer than any thorn you are going to deal with. One day, of course, all your suffering is going to be like a blink of the eye. When you're in heaven, when you're in eternity, when you're with God, when you're experiencing the love of God, the grace of God, the goodness of God, the generosity of God, you will know that God's grace is sufficient. It's better than anything that you've ever experienced on earth, and it's bigger and better than any pain you suffered is going to disappear in light of God's grace. I'm Dave Earley. We're praying through the promises of God. Your prayer today would be something on the lines of, God, I need your grace today because this is what I'm facing. And God will give you the grace for whatever you face one day at a time. You can follow us as we continue praying through the promises of God on Facebook or subscribe to our YouTube channel. We want to help you be a disciple of Jesus, and we want to help you make disciples of Jesus Christ.